Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI technology, hosted by me, Mal McCallion. Now, one of the things that we set out to do with the Property AI Report is to help people, listeners, with AI literacy, okay, the understanding of what actually AI is all about. Now, over the last 11 weeks, the first 11 of this podcast, we think we've had a decent start at doing that. However, what we wanted to do this week was really sort of up our dive into some of the more complex areas of AI, just to help you listeners with a lot more of the detail. There's so much going on right now that really it's kind of up to us and others to help people at the coalface, you who are out there hearing all about AI and wondering what it really means for your business. So we're going to go large on some of the real big macro topics, as well as dive a little bit deeper into some of the more amusing ones and some of the more kind of disposable ones too. We've got our weekly AI tool of the week. We also have our weird AI of the week occasional series this week, focusing on some stuff coming out of Hollywood. So lots to get through, lots to focus on. I hope that this slight reformat is going to be really good for you guys, and do obviously let us know in any comments that you can on your podcast provider of choice, or on YouTube, where you'll also find the video to this up there as well. So without further ado, let's get stuck into our new structure. So we're going to start with three main topics that we're going to go into in some detail, and then there's going to be some quick fire topics. There's another 5 in there. Then we've got tool of the week, and then we've got weird AI of the week before we close it all up, hopefully within about 20 minutes or so. So let us get to it. Our first story this week is all about, just a week ago, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States, having been the 45th. And he got straight down to some AI business by announcing a project called Stargate. Now, the hot take on this, which is really around the fact that this is named after a 1994 film with James Spader and a few others in it, is that actually this is huge. Right, and that people are calling this the Manhattan Project of AI, which is essentially the Manhattan Project being the kind of the building of the nuclear bomb, and kind of the ability for us to create nuclear power off the back of that. And this is the intent of the US to build data centers costing $500 billion. And essentially to continue to work extraordinarily hard to stay ahead of China. Now, in order to try and control all of this infrastructure, in order to try and ensure that the US continues its march ahead of anybody else out there from an AI perspective, Donald Trump has teamed up with Sam Altman of OpenAI, a number of others, including Abu Dhabi-backed fund MGX. It's got Arm, which is based in Cambridge over here in the UK. It's got SoftBank, Oracle, Nvidia, Microsoft, loads and loads of people within the AI space, although not Elon Musk, which has made him very cross, which we'll talk about in a sec. So what this is going to do is really going to reinforce OpenAI, which is Sam Altman's business, as being essentially one of the biggest and most important and powerful organizations that this century is going to see. All right, OpenAI is going to be a significant winner off the back of this. A lot of its efforts to achieve what they call AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is human level AI, and then artificial superintelligence, ASI, which, again, Altman is penciling in for some time in the next decade, which is basically going to be able to do things way better than we are. And essentially, we're just going to be trying to guide it, right? So obviously, there's a lot about alignment, which is making sure that AGI and ASI aligns with human needs and does not escape and start to, you've seen the films, The Terminator, etc., basically make us its slaves. And that's significant, right? That there is a lot of work, money, effort, focus going into ensuring that doesn't come to pass. This Stargate project does is really reinforce that essentially the Trump administration is going large on this particular technology, and what it wants to be remembered for is supercharging this particular way of enhancing what has been the US's dominance in this area so far, and protecting it and ensuring and nurturing it and ensuring that it remains the number one player. across the world. Now, as I mentioned, this has not met with universal approval, certainly not even within the Trump and his next door neighbor in the White House, his sidekick Elon Musk, self-described first buddy in the new administration. He is absolutely furious that Sam Altman and OpenAI have been given this privilege of this much money, a decent chunk of it from the government and supported by Trump himself. Musk, you may remember, is at loggerheads with Sam Altman of OpenAI. This goes back to 2015 when OpenAI was first launched, and Musk was one of the co-founders with Altman. Musk has sued Altman recently, very specifically around the fact that Altman is moving OpenAI from being a non-profit organization dedicated to charity work, essentially, trying to build AGI for the benefit of humanity. He's transitioning that into a for-profit company, which essentially is able to get these billions and billions and billions of dollars from from the government and from various investors in order to continue with the mission, because it is really, really expensive to do all this kind of work. Elon Musk, on the other hand, is building a rival to OpenAI, which is called xAI. And I think he expected that by becoming Donald Trump's sidekick, by funding, I think, $290 million of Trump's campaign, he would expect that he would pretty much be in the chair when it came to AI and the privileging of various businesses within the Trump administration. So he is supremely hacked off that Sam Altman has managed to conjure this particular deal out of nowhere and kind of blindside Musk all about it. And it also gives Altman a degree of protection, because Musk was really, really, really going after him, is really, really going after him. And I think that Altman must have not been sleeping too well, knowing that essentially Trump and Musk together could do some significant damage to OpenAI. However, it looks like Trump and his entourage, excluding Musk, have seen that OpenAI is really important for continuing this US, I'm not going to call it hegemony, but certainly lead in this particular technological race. So yeah, Musk is now off licking his wounds, raging against the machine from the confines of X. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, because there's some colossal egos going on here, and all of these men are going to have to find a way to work together in the end. And it remains to be seen how they're going to do it. But big news, what does it mean for all of us? What it means is that essentially AI is going to be the technology of the next 10, 20, 30 years. It means that everybody is going to be working with it. We are all going to have to find ways of integrating it into our businesses, and it is going to be something that changes how we do things forever. So yeah, look, we obviously here at the Property AI Report will keep you posted on everything that is going on. But yeah, look, it's very, very exciting. It's going to have a lot of benefits from a productivity viewpoint. It's going to have a lot of benefits from how we actually focus our time and what we think is going to be important. And it's obviously going to benefit the businesses that move fastest by in helping them to increase their market share and increase revenue per transaction. So loads of excitement there. Obviously, we are here to help you through this, and we'll continue to talk about all this sort of stuff as we go through. So on the back of that, what we wanted to do just now was also then dive into something very, very specifically UK focused right now, although they do have international aspirations. So this is a company called Jitty, who you may have heard of. This is our second deep dive story today. Jitty is a new property portal / property discovery engine. It was set up a couple of years ago now by some real massive brains led by Graham Patterson, ex of Deliveroo. And the real focus here has been on sort of just coming at it from a completely different perspective. So rather than just trying to me too a Rightmove clone or a Zoopla clone, etc., what they've done is they've kind of gone, right, this new technology, AI, is here. What can we do to bring it into this really important process in people's lives, which is the discovery of their perfect property? And what they've launched this week is what they call Jitty Inspiration. So it's worth having a little look. Go to jitty.com/inspiration, and then you can actually search for property using pretty much any text you like. Now, those of you that know us here at Model Prop know that we can deliver this onto your website, and this natural language search, as it's called, is essentially what we believe is the future as well. So it's great to see another business, Jitty, bringing this to the fore and presenting it to the public, and essentially saying, look, if you want to come and find pink bathrooms, then you can come and find pink bathrooms. If you want to come and find beach views from the inside, okay, so actually you can see that from your window, you can see beach views, then you can do that. And it will bring forth all properties that fulfill that criteria with photos. All right, so it literally goes through all the photos and finds the information from the photos. And again, it's you know, if you want to have a bath in your bedroom, this again is you can search for that. It's really, really cool. Well worth a look. And what I really like about this is that essentially it is really bringing to people the opportunity for them to just think about what their dream home is and kind of just to imagine, right, you know, what is it that I really that I really am passionate about, you know, and it could be. You know, that skylight in the kitchen. It could be I want chandeliers. It could be whatever you like, but you can really, really go and find those things. It highlights the quirky details, and it gives you that kind of visual inspiration as well. So I think it's something that people will be paying more attention to. Agents should go and have a look at. It is free, and I believe they've promised that it always will be free to agents to list. And yeah, it's just for the first time probably in 15 years since I was part of the team that set up Zoopla, I think we've got a new property search or property discovery platform that is fundamentally different, that actually has the potential to change how people search for property. And I think particularly in constrained times as these are, where agents don't necessarily have the money to, let's call it, afford some of the eye-watering increases that your right moves and so on are pushing through, then I think this is a really valuable addition to the suite of marketing products that agents can use. So it's well worth a look. So go to jitty.com/inspiration and have a play. It's cool. All right, so then on to our third deep dive this week, which is all about what you may have heard of as China's DeepSeek. Okay, so DeepSeek R1, particularly in the news today, Monday, the 27th of January, 2025, because it has knocked something like $1 trillion off stock markets over in the West. Now, what China's DeepSeek has done is it has created what they are saying is a competitor to OpenAI's O1 reasoning model. Now, again, let's just recap. So there are two kind of distinct models in AI at the moment in terms of a generative AI. There are the generative chat, which is ChatGPT 4.0. And what that does is that answers questions really quickly. It essentially is a prediction engine, and it's very, very smart and very effective at doing really quick answers to things. And then there are what they call the reasoning models, which is the O1, and then now O3 is coming out shortly from OpenAI. Gemini has got its own kind of deep thought ideal of how that they brought the Google DeepMind into play through Gemini. And again, that takes time. And what these kind of more reasoning models do is they have what they call chain of thought. So they will actually come up with an answer. Then it will check it itself as to whether it thinks that this is rational and reasonable, and it will take some time before outputting a considered and reasonable and rational response, and perhaps a more strategic response than the other chattier models do. So that's the kind of context, and essentially it was always thought that the cost of training these models was going to go up incrementally every single version. So if you wanted to do O4 and O5 for OpenAI's ChatGPT, then you were going to have to spend billions and billions of dollars. Now, China's DeepSeek R1 claims that it has been created on less than $6 million of compute. All right, and that compares to billions of dollars that the likes of XAI and OpenAI and others have raised in order to build to train their next models. So it's incredibly cheap. It seems to, on most benchmarks, to be the equivalent of or even beat O1 at many tests, and that is incredible. And what it seems to have been driven by is the fact that the US has been restricting these chips to the Chinese market to try and stop them from building models like these. And what that's driven, as necessity often does, has driven them to invent different ways of training. So they've actually used some of these older chips, the ones that they can get their hands on, loads of them, but actually been able to create efficiencies and enabled them to train these models in similar ways and then release it. And they've released it as open source as well. So it's free. All right, and this again has absolutely hacked away at the tech stocks today, right across the world, because if it is possible to create these these models that are reasoning models that are as good as O1 for, for only millions of dollars rather than billions of dollars. And then if they are going to be released free and open source, then there is very little that continues to be a moat, as they call it, around these larger businesses and the investments that they've made and that investors have put into them. So it's a really interesting moment, and one of the only things that anybody seems to be able to say against this DeepSeek model is that it because it's part of China or it's part of the China ecosystem, it won't criticize the government and it won't mention things like Tiananmen Square and so on. But because it is open source, because you can see all of its weights, etc., then you can just change that and actually get rid of it. So essentially, you have now one of the most powerful models out there, available, open sourced, that is ready to be used by any decent developer to essentially build their own reasoning model. That has put, obviously, the cat amongst the pigeons at all the frontier firms, the likes of OpenAI, but also particularly Meta, right? Because Meta's big thing. So this is Facebook as was. Their big thing was that they had Llama 3, which is the biggest open source model to date. And they have now been superseded by this DeepSeek, it seems. So yes, lots going on, lots of turmoil now about actually if it's possible to do this far cheaper and as cost effective, far cheaper to build something that is just as good a quality, then you've got some real challenges in terms of cementing what it is that is unique about these big American businesses, but also the risk that the US was trying to mitigate, which is that China gets access to some essentially weapons grade AI and can increase their military technology significantly as a result. That doesn't seem to have worked. So yes, there's a lot of thought around sort of military impact as well. So lots still to be unwound about this. This was only released last week on the same day as Trump's inauguration, no less. So yeah, lots to focus on from that DeepSeek, and yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on it and making sure that we bring any further news on it to you as soon as it comes out. Right, so that's the kind of three core stories for us today and this week. What we're going to go into now is a quick fire round with 5 stories that we're going to rattle through, because already we're looking at the time and we're nearly at 20 minutes, so we need to go faster. All right, so quick fire round. What you need to know really, really quickly about what's going on out there in AI property right now. OpenAI, Sam Altman's firm, has released its operator. Now, this is an AI agent that essentially does things for you on your computer without you having to necessarily do it yourself. So what's important about this? The first thing we need to mention is that AI agent is a really annoying term that does not mean AI estate agent. And every time I say it to estate agents when I'm talking to them, as I do every day, is that the concern kind of glides over their face about what you mean you're going to do an AI estate agent. And no, that is not what this means. An AI agent is something that has agency, so is able to do things and is AI. All right, so we're going to try and refer to it as agentic AI because that just feels a little bit more different from and less confusing than the other term. So agentic AI is here. OpenAI has released Operator, which essentially will go onto your system and your computer, and will go onto websites that you want it to go onto. You can give an instruction and it will follow through. Now, that means you can ask it to do things like book a restaurant, or go through some data and understand a bit more about particular topics. And all this sort of stuff can just be an instruction to your operator, to your agentic AI, and it will go off and do it. What does that mean for us? It means that pretty soon your CRM system will be able to be operated by an agentic AI. All right, so you will literally just go, right, I need to find everybody that hasn't moved in the last 6 months from all the data that we've got on our system where we've been out to evaluation, bring them back, and then can you send an email to them just asking them whether they're still interested in potentially moving. And the AI will go and do that for you. So one of the things, obviously, here at Model Prop AI that we always talk about is getting humans to do the human stuff and letting machines do the machine stuff. Machines are now going to be essentially sitting in front of your PCs, your screens, instead of your humans. Your humans are going to be able to go out there into the world, develop those relationships, build your pipeline really, really strongly, and ensure that essentially you are getting the maximum from them rather than it being something that you are having to get them to sit in front of the computer and work through. So there's the computer use from Anthropic is also does a similar thing, although it came out 2 months ago now, so it's obviously out of date. But this is going to be a real feature that you see again and again and again. Agentic AI coming to the fore will obviously be focused very much on how that technology is going to develop, but it is going to be the thing in the next year, 2, 3 years that is going to fundamentally change what we do at work, how we do it, and improve productivity for sure. So lots and lots going on there, but this is the first open AI, agentic AI out there, and it's called Operator, and it will be out there very soon. Right, next up, we have just a very quick story about the joint most expensive property ever sold in the UK. So there's a London mansion called the Holme, Holme, in Regent's Park. It's gone for 139 million quid. Right, which is huge. And if you imagine even at just 2% commission on that, that's like nearly £3 million for the lucky agent that sold it. However, it's probably going to be more, right? Because at that end of the market, you are going to pay a little bit more to find the right buyer. I mean, to be fair, it was on the market for 250 million last year, or 2023, actually, I think, but it's obviously come down a little bit. However, it's still an astonishing amount of money. It's a beautiful property for sure. But what does this mean for the market? Potentially, it does recalibrate a little bit what is possible to get. Although obviously it's a very unique property in Regent's Park near the Duck Pond. It's going to be pretty special. But one of the things that has come out of it that people are talking about quite a lot is the fact that you can't find out who actually owns it. It's a bit opaque. There's various holding companies involved, but yes, it's a big moment, I think, for London for 2025. We've got a huge sale that's gone ahead, and that's that indicates a certain level of confidence that perhaps isn't always observable through a lot of the kind of media that you see around how the UK economy is essentially a basket case, and everybody's going to be in real trouble. So I think positives to be taken here. What I'm seeing is across 2025 already. This is month one. Is that almost the headlines that you read are not quite diametrically opposed to what is happening in the property market, but certainly there is a lot more activity, a lot more enthusiasm, a lot more confidence in the market than you would believe if you were reading just the press. But yes, I think there's a lot to be said for talking the country and the market up rather than always talking it down. So lots of excitement, I think, to come. But that is a real good mark in the sand for us at this early point in the year. Right, third story in our quickfire round. It's actually come out today that the UK government has been trialing AI in a lot of different, particularly the Department for Work and Pensions, where they've been trying different things about how to use it within the public sector. And the story, and it was a story that was actually in the Guardian today, was very much about how they failed at loads of things, right? How they've tried these things and the market and the technology hasn't quite worked. There are they've started some dozens of projects, and only 2 or 3 of them are now gone into production. Now, this is just such terrible journalism, and just is the worst example of not understanding how you build products and you do projects, right? A lot of this stuff, particularly because it's such new tech, you're going to have to try loads of stuff. If you've worked in any startup ever, particularly if you've been a founder, then what you know is some of your ideas just ain't going to work. And you're going to have to try loads of them and probably get rid of about 80–90% of them. So for this article to portray that testing as being failures, I think is just really shoddy and just kind of so amateur from a description point of view, from a guidance to to consumers or taxpayers about what their money's going on. This is really important. If we're going to implement anything in this country that technologically that is actually useful, then we're going to have to test it. We're going to have to try it. We're going to have to go down some blind alleys. We're going to have to make mistakes. So I just think it's really irresponsible for this to be portrayed as AI failures, when actually the 2 that have gone into production have come off the back of this trial and error process. So yeah, look, I think it's great news that the government is trying this stuff, that is getting stuck in, is rolling its sleeves up and trying different AI implementations. Some of them are going to work, some of them haven't. Good, great. That's actually brilliant. And yes, really looking forward to hearing what those pilots prove. Some of them may still fail. Guess what? And then we're going to have to go again. But it's much better than putting into position, as we have done as a country and as a public sector for decades, which is just really crappy IT systems that don't work, aren't fit for purpose, and then we have to pull them all out again and then try again. Horizon obviously is one of the examples from the post office, but yeah, what we need is we need a confident public sector working with AI, with some skilled people in there who have done the hard yards, learned the hard way, and now are able to build some stuff that we really, really need. So love it. Continue with it. It's great. Well done. Next, wanted to just continue actually talking a little bit about what the government's focusing on from a property perspective. So again, over the weekend, we had Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, talking about the government and building, how it's going to build its way out of the current situation. And essentially, there's going to be a default yes to development applications in certain areas. The idea being here to cut through red tape. Obviously, this has absolutely freaked a lot of people out who don't want this in their backyard. Thank you very much. But I think, again, you know, for too long, we have been absolutely constrained by these naysayers. And, you know, I respect the fact that, you know, people don't tend to want things, you know, many more properties being built near them because it will depress your house price. It will, because there's more properties in your area. It will put some challenges on infrastructure, but assuming that there is enough planning going on as well, that actually that infrastructure will be improved, that schools, hospitals, roads will be put in as well, then all of this is necessary for a growing and thriving country and a self-confident country to build its way into growth. So, you know, whether it's pylons, whether it's houses, the government has indicated that it's very serious about building, you know, the next energy sector, which again is going to be super important if we're going to benefit from AI in this country. Also, housing, you know, again, really, really important if we're going to help the next generation to be able to afford houses, to have a stake in this country, to actually see their way towards being able to achieve the things their parents did, or their grandparents did, etc. You know, that there's, you know, people talk about mental health crises, and everybody, you know, wonders why this coming generation or these coming generations are feeling it much more than it seems historical generations. It's about purpose, right? It's about being able to understand what's coming down the track, see an opportunity, build ambition, to have a career's ladder, to know where to see an opportunity for personal growth and for you know, development and so on. So, you know, those things that were open to us as we kind of grew up have seemed to not be open to generations coming through without, you know, homes that they can afford and so on and so forth. And they've had to, you know, been saddled with debt coming out of university, etc. So I think this is really, really important for the country. I think it's really, really important for the future, for our children. And I think that, you know, actually going against perhaps the entitlement of previous generations who say, no, I don't want my house to lose value by 3 or 4 or 5% and have all these other houses around me. It's like, well, your house was built on what used to be a field, so it's just going to have to be the same for others coming through as well. So I think it's really positive, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that goes too. All right, we are nearly through our quick fire round. Just a final mention of something that Sam Altman, well, you will remember from the previous stories, is the is the head chief exec of OpenAI. He's also invested in a different product called World. It used to be called WorldCoin. You may remember about a year and a half ago, he had these weird orbs that would scan your eye and then would give you a digital signature that says this is you and confirms your digital presence. So he's kind of pushing on with this idea, and the big catchphrase from this is proof of human. So he wants people to have a proof of human about themselves, so that if there is an AI actually doing something, then it is observable that is an AI versus a human. And it's a really interesting place at the moment, is about kind of identity and how do you know when AI is present and when it is not? How do you confirm that? How do you prove that? So I think it's quite an interesting idea, this proof of human. Obviously, it kind of turns things back on us as humans as an extra step, right? An extra validation step that we may not be really quite keen on going down. But as AI gets more intelligent and as we use it for more, then having this kind of definitive understanding of what is AI and what is human, I think is going to be really important. So again, keeping an eye on World, which is from Sam Altman. It's going to be something that we talk more about, particularly about digital proof of identity. So it's going to be something that I think more and more people are going to be looking into. Obviously, in our world, in property, it's going to be really important. The deep fakes, the ability for people to be able to impersonate others, and the potential for fraud and so on is huge, particularly the transactions that we deal with. So yes, I think it's going to be an interesting area that's going to become more and more important as we go through the next few years. So one to keep an eye on for sure. Alrighty, so we wanted to get through our tool of the week this week, and it is something called Recap. So Recap essentially is, it's at recapall.app. So recapall.app. What it does is a powered summaries and particularly visualizations. So what I really like about it is this ability to do mind maps from documents that you throw up there. So for example, you could put in the upcoming Renters Reform Act and put it in there and try and kind of get some visualizations of the broad topics, the important topics, and how they all fit together, and what does this mean for kind of you, and you can ask questions about it as well. You can also inquire or get multi-perspectives on it. So you can have kind of like, a tenant's perspective. You can ask for a landlord's perspective. You can ask for a government regulator's perspective. You can ask for, I don't know, Einstein's perspective. All of these different kind of personas you can kind of put into this as well. So it's quite neat and actually kind of gives you a lot more, helps to give you more clarity around particular ideas. So really like it. Recapall.app, a really good tool this week that you wanted to have, that I would recommend you have a little play with just to see what it does. Okay, finally this week, we wanted to dive into our weird AI of the week. Okay, so on the heels of the start of awards season in Hollywood and films, we've got a contender for, the weird Oscar of the week, the weird Oscar. Essentially what it is one of the Oscar contenders is called The Brutalist, and it's got Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones in it. And Adrian Brody plays a Hungarian architect who essentially comes over to the States during the war and is able to kind of realize his vision and so on. But one of the things that has come to light in the last week is actually that when he was doing a Hungarian accent, that actually his voice is AI enhanced. And it's interesting because it seems that this has essentially kind of kiboshed his chances of Oscar glory, because suddenly everyone's kind of like walked away from it and just going, well, that's just too new and too fresh. And there was the strikes not too long ago, a couple of years back, from most of Hollywood about AI taking over people's jobs and actors' jobs, etc. So they've synthesized Adrian Brody's voice and Felicity Jones's voices, and made the Hungarian dialogue far more natural as a result of using AI. And apparently also something to do with the last scene of it as well. There's a lot of AI in some of the kind of the visuals that come through in that part of the film as well. So it's going to be pretty, I think it's going to have quite a big backlog for the film itself in the awards, but it's something that they've doubled down on and said, look, this is how films are going to be made going forwards, and I don't doubt that. Hollywood has tried to kind of resist that genie coming out of the bottle, but more and more I think films are going to have these little dashes and splashes of AI, whether it's just in the scripting or whether it is an actual the kind of the creative, the voices, the visuals that you see. So yeah, look, I think it's going to be a big feature coming forward. I do think that it is something that is, it's odd because it's the first one we've seen, right? And it's the first time that anybody's owned up to doing this sort of thing. And I think it's going to be something that we see far, far more of as we go through. So that is our final piece for this week, Weird AI of the Week. I hope that you've got some really interesting and perhaps a bit deeper understanding of certain issues within AI and within property this week. We want to make sure that you do get that going forwards from the Property AI report. So do please catch us again next week, where we'll be bringing you even more about what's happened over the next week in AI. I'm sure it will be absolutely tons. My name is Mal McCallion. Thanks so much indeed for listening, and I will catch up with you again next week. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.